I still remember the sound of metal screaming. It was sharp, raw, like the world tearing apart. 1 second, I was staring out the window, my headphones drowning out my brother's voice, and the next, the car spun, tires shrieking against the asphalt. Liam's voice cut off mid-sentence. Then everything turned into chaos. Glass exploded around me like falling stars. My body slammed against the door. I didn't even have time to scream. For a split second, there was silence, then nothing at all. When I woke up, the world was cold and sterile. Fluorescent lights buzzed above me, stabbing my eyes. The smell of antiseptic wrapped around my lungs. My mouth was dry, my body stiff, and for a moment, I didn't even know who I was. My arms were full of tubes, my torso wrapped tight in bandages. Pain pulsed through every bone like fire. I tried to speak. Nothing came out but a weak rasp. A nurse noticed me and hurried over, her eyes wide with relief. She called someone, her voice muffled and distant, as if I were underwater. Mom and Dad walked in moments later, and that was when the real pain started. They didn't cry. They didn't run to me or touch my face or even whisper my name. They just stood there, stiff and impatient, like they were waiting for a delayed flight. My mom looked at the doctor instead of me. "She's awake," she said flatly, not "she's okay," not "thank God," just "she's awake." The doctor smiled gently at me. "You've been through major surgery," he said. "You lost a kidney in the accident, but you're stable now. We saved you." I blinked, trying to form words. My throat burned. The nurse slipped ice chips into my mouth while I forced out a single name. "Liam." My mother's lips barely moved. "He's fine." Walked away with scratches. "You'll be here for a while." That was it. No relief, no joy. Just annoyance, like I had ruined their day by not dying. In that moment, something small cracked inside me. Days blurred together like melted glass. I floated between sleep and pain. No one visited, not Liam, not my parents. They only appeared when paperwork needed signing. I wanted to believe that. I needed to. Because the alternative that they simply didn't take care was too heavy to carry while I was still struggling to breathe. But then came the night that destroyed any doubt. It was past midnight. My room was dark except for the pale light from the machines. I couldn't sleep, the pain gnawed at me, sharp and constant. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling when I heard voices outside my door. At first I thought I was imagining them, but then I heard my mother's voice, low and cold. "So, you're saying if we take her other kidney?" My heart stopped. The doctor's voice came next, tense and firm. "She wouldn't survive that. She's already lost one. Removing the second would—" "She'd die," my father cut in. "We understand. But Liam needs it. He's the one with a future. She's just drifting. She doesn't even know what she wants in life. She'd never be able to run, or carry much, or live fully," my mother added. Her tone was icy, like she was reading off a grocery list. "This would be a sacrifice that means something." There was a pause. Then the doctor said, horrified, "You're talking about killing your daughter. She'd be doing something good for once," my mother snapped. My blood went cold. They weren't whispering about me. They were planning me. They were deciding whether my life was worth less than my brother's. I lay perfectly still, tears slipping silently into my pillow. My fingers trembled under the blankets. I wanted to scream, to rip out the IVs and run, but my body wouldn't move. I felt trapped inside my own skin, like a prisoner. I had always known they favored Liam. He was the golden boy, the straight, a student, the future CEO, the pride of our family. I was background noise, an afterthought. But even knowing that, I never imagined they would be willing to end my life just to keep his perfect little future alive. They left eventually, their footsteps fading down the hallway. I stared into the dark for hours, and I made a choice. I would not die for them. I would survive, but not just survive. I would make sure they never forgot what they tried to do to me. Not ever. The next morning, my hands still shook as I pressed the call button for the nurse. My voice was thin, trembling, almost breaking apart. I need to talk to the hospital social worker, I whispered. She blinked at me, surprised. Are you in pain? Yes, I said, and for the first time, I told the truth. But not the kind you can see. Something in my eyes must have told her this wasn't about broken bones or surgery scars. She nodded, quietly, and left. I waited, my heart racing so fast it hurt more than my stitches.
Hours passed before a soft knock came at my door. She entered like sunlight slipping under a locked door. Her name was Judith. She was older, maybe in her 50s, with warm brown eyes and a voice like a lullaby. She pulled a chair to my bedside, opened a little notepad, and sighed gently, "Whenever you're ready." And then, for the first time, he spoke. He told her how my parents had stood outside my room, speaking of me like he was meat on a shelf. He told her how they argued for my desk, how they called me worthless, how the word sacrifice came out of my mother's mouth like it was noble, not cruel. He didn't cry. He couldn't. He felt empty, hollowed out. My voice was steady, almost cold, as if the only way to survive was to speak like it was happening to someone else. When he finished, Judith just stared at me for a long moment. Then she closed her notepad and whispered, "Thank you for telling me." That was it. No more shock, no more disbelief, just belief. And that was enough. That day changed everything. Judith reported what he said to the hospital's ethics board. The staff pulled audio from the security system in the hallway. The recording caught fragments of my parents' conversation enough to prove he wasn't lying. Within 24 hours, my world shifted. A protective order was placed on my room. My parents' access was revoked. My medical records were locked from them permanently. For the first time, he could breathe. When my parents found out, they stormed into the hospital waiting room. Their voices carried down the hall like thunder. "She's brainwashing our daughter." My mother screamed. "That girl belongs to US." Security escorted them out as my father's face twisted with rage. He watched from my window, silent, shaking, but not from fear this time. From freedom. Judith stood beside me, resting a gentle hand on my arm. "You are not theirs anymore," she sighed quietly, and for the first time, he believed her. He wasn't 18 yet, just a few months shy. But with Judith's help and the judge's emergency order, he was granted temporary legal separation from my parents. They no more longer had any power over me. Not legally, not physically, not ever again. When he was finally discharged from the hospital weeks later, he walked out the front doors alone. No more family waiting, no more hugs, just the cold autumn wind cutting against my thin hospital sweater. He was placed in foster care. The apartment was small, dim, and he smelled like dust. The mattress was thin. The heater clanked through the night. But it was safe. And the safe was everything. I spent my days finishing high school online, still sore and weak but pushing through. I spent my nights working at a bookstore, the smell of paper and the ink becoming my new kind of comfort. I saved every coin I earned, keeping it in an envelope hidden inside a showbox under my bed. I told myself I wouldn't depend on anyone again, not the system, not strangers, and never them. I didn't want anything that came with a string. I wanted full control of my life, even if it meant clawing it out of the dirt. And slowly, piece by piece, I rebuilt myself. Months passed. My body grew stronger. My scars stopped aching every time I breathed. One night, I sat at my tiny desk and stared at the last name on my school ID. It felt like a bruise, like something they still owned. So I changed it. I took my great-grandmother's maiden name, Olin. A name they had never touched. A name with no more blood on it. For the first time, I looked in the mirror and I saw someone new. Not the broken girl who lay silent in a hospital bed. Not the spare part they tried to carve apart. Someone alive. Someone free. Someone dangerous to anyone who underestimated her. And even though the world didn't notice, I knew this was the beginning of everything. Long before the crash, long before the hospital bed and the whispers of taking my life for his. I knew he was never really theirs. It's strange how children can feel these things before they can name them. He was 6 when he first realized my parents' love had conditions and none of them belonged to me.